cocaine, drug, intoxicant, snow, coke, dependence, addiction, death. The cocaine is, of already a drug that this one was Inca consumed. Cocaine is one from the leaves of the coke bush. It is regarded as one of the most dangerous drugs due to its strong addiction-forming effect. About the Spanish conquistadores, coke was confessed in Europe 1860. Turned out well, never man to isolate cocaine out of coke for the first time chemically. One was Sigmund Freud the first, which examined it for its medical usability and assumed that one could apply it to local anesthetization at operations. Its colleague Karl Kohler improved Freud's idea. However, his principal interest, the euphorogenics effect of the cocaine, was valid. Freud consumed which one even over for some time low tins of cocaine had recommended him Freud until his friend Meat died at an extreme overdosage of the cocaine. For the cure of meat morphine dependence, Freud had healed by this event of his cocainism. The first cocainism waves started rolling 1886 in Germany. A second rolled over France at the end of the 19th century. Cocaine gets nasal or as an injection consumes. It seems strongly stimulating and the sleep need reduces, apparently, and deadens the ganglions of the nerves. By the fact that insects or spiders under the skin would crawl, it comes to the hallucination. The eyeballs emerge easily, these pupils dilate, the pulse increases and the intestinal peristalsis is stronger. Low doses stimulate and work paralyzing more retardedly. Cocaine increases the risk of feeling cerebral hemorrhages, feelings of anxiety, but also increase of the sexual, visual hallucinations, symptoms of a higher for disinhibition, increased urge to move, talk impulse as well as self-criticism weakens strongly. A strong hangover appears after with exhaustion feelings, tiredness and depressive ill feelings approximately an hour. As a rule, to suppress this feeling, another dose is consumed. Detailed overview. The cocaine, depending on processing also as coke, snow, coke, crack and rocks described, is a white crystal-like powder which has won from the sheets of the coca bush, erythroxyl and coke, with the help of different chemical processes. It acts intoxicating both and deadening locally. Cocaine is part of the illegal addictive drugs. The possession as well as its trade after the narcotics law are forbidden and are pursued criminally. A quick look in story and origin. The evergreen coca bush is, where presumable already 2.500 VCHR, local in South America. It was added as a cultivated plant. Chewing the unprocessed coca leaves has a tradition lasting for centuries, primarily in Peru and Bolivia. At first the pleasure of the coca leaves was permitted only in the context of ritualistic actions. With the Spanish conquest, soon, consumption spread, however, under the native population which tried with the help of this drug to suppress its hunger and to increase its efficiency and staying power at hard work. In the 50s of the 19th century, the active alkaloid of the coca bush was isolated for the first time chemically and received the name cocaine. This substance was used for the treatment of depressions and for the local anesthetization primarily at eye operations. Already soon, it was added to a drink in the USA more than 25 years after its discovery, which was commercialized under the name Coca-Cola as a universal remedy. 1 liter Coca-Cola contained about 250 milligrams of cocaine to 1903. Due to the deaths in connection with drinks containing cocaine piling themselves up, the cocaine addition got, however, prohibited by law in drinks in 1914. As intoxicant, cocaine got popular both in the USA and in Germany only in the 20s of the 20th century. With the emerge of the amphetamines, cocaine consumption declined according to tendency in the 30s, though and came into fashion only in the 70s once more. Smoking crack came as an application form unknown until then, open in the USA in the 80s. Since the beginning of the 90s, this has won cold of cocaine in the west of Germany under young adults to popularity, particularly while the share of the population to which has made experiences with cocaine is regarded as declining in the USA. Meanwhile, the substance, the leaves of the coca bush, contain about 1% of the alkaloid known as cocaine. The cocaine content is, however, usually enriched by extracting in the countries of origin. The coke paste arising from the extracting is reprocessed to cocaine hydrochloride, a salt of the hydrochloric acid. This substance, which is far-been odorless and tasting bitter, reaches the illegal market under addition of extenders in pulverized form as coke or snow. In this form, the substance is injected by the nose, snorted, or dissolved in intravenous. The cocaine hydrochloride must be converted into a cocaine base for the production of the smokable crack, for example by boiling in a baking powder solution. After the evaporation of the water, the cocaine base stays behind as a residue in the form of white yellowish crystals, rock. The crack owes its name to the cracking noises arising at the heating. So-called freebase, which also can be smoked, arises because of a chemical reaction of the cocaine hydrochloride with ammonia, and its consumption forms cocaine can by cold or injecting cocaine hydrochloride, and is taken after transformation into cocaine base by smoking. It also develops its effect on chewing coca leaves, if also to a lesser extent. Most cocaine consumers cold the crystalline powder, which is drawn on a smooth surface to a line and absorbed with the help of a little pipette into the upper nasal cavity. To this 20-50 mg of cocaine hydrochloride are approximately taken. For injections, the cocaine is dissolved before and then given intravenously. For smoking, the white yellowish cocaine base is heated up at the flame of a lighter or gas burner and inhaled in the hot condition in special glass pipes. With this, the photo of the psychoactive substance hesitates between 250 and 1000 milligrams. At a chronic cocaine consumption, you distinguish between an episodic and continuous consumption. A mostly high dose repeated is taken so long at the former until the available stock is used up or the consumer exhausted physically completely. Several days then follow without consumption. At the continuous consumption form, lots of cocaine are consumed daily or almost daily constant. The effects. Cocaine works on way three kinds of in pharmacological regard. It stimulates the psyche very strongly, has an effective effect at ending locally, and makes the blood vessels narrower. Exception: the substance is dismantled extensively after about 6 hours, and consumption in the body is after a few days. Shed hairs, no longer provable. This does not apply to chronic consumption, though. Residues are up to 3 weeks recognizable here. The extent of the inflaming effect hangs both of the person of the consumer alone and from the dose, the type of consumption, and the quality of the substance. Because the active agent content of the powder sold as cocaine hesitates on an average between 20 and 50%, the effect on the cold starts after a few minutes. After approximately 30-60 minutes, the maximum concentration is reached in the blood, and the pharmacological effect stops up to an hour. The effect, however, starts on the syringes or smoking already after a few seconds, since the cocaine is taken by the blood circulation over the lungs very quickly, or the brain reaches at the intravenous serving under avoidance of all resorption barriers. The working duration also is reduced, though, so the drug state actuated by smoking only stops about 5-10 minutes. Cocaine is confessed generally as a performance drug, since it causes an improved performance and physical capacity increased, limited from the point of view of time. It dampens the hungry feeling, reduces the sleep need, and actuates euphoric feelings. The desire and power increase ascribed to it turns itself over at a continuing consumption in the opposite, namely in sexual lack of interest and impotence. Though, the drug states caused by the cocaine go usually in several stadia. Euphoric stage. At the beginning, the positively experienced, so-called euphoric stage. This, among others, of an elevated atmosphere, increased self-esteem, stands, tense drive and thinking, as well as stronger sensory perception, and creativity is labeled. The consumer feels careless, loses social and sexual hindrance, and feels a reduced sleep need at libido increased at the same time. Cocaine also is described as a euphoriant because of this, together with other opiates. Also, simple hallucinations and pseudo-hallucinations occasionally appear. High stage. After approximately 20-60 minutes, the euphoric phase fades away. Anxiously paranoid atmosphere is drawn near into the described perceptions. These, with primarily acoustic, sometimes also with visual hallucinations, walk along now. Depressive stage. This third phase of the cocaine high is indicated primarily by dejection, listlessness, tiredness and exhaustion up to states of panic, feelings of guilt, self-reproaches and suicidal thoughts. Mode of action. The central nervous stimulating effect of the cocaine is connected directly with the influencing of the neurotransmitter metabolism. The resumption of the neurotransmitters delays dopamine, norepinephrine and serotonin into the presynaptic loft vesicles, and the effect of these messenger substances strengthens at the postsynaptic receptors. Through this it comes to a solid stimulation and others of the central nervous system. At short-time use in relatively low doses, this central nervous stimulation leads body temperature, respiratory rate and breath depth to a tense attention and motor hyperactivity and to an increase in pulse rate, blood pressure. On the other hand, by chronic use of cocaine it comes to lasting malfunctions of the nervous system, are to explain the typical personality changes which partly add addicted to cocaine at least, and the risks. The risks of cocaine consumption are primarily the danger of an emotional dependence adapting fast and the consequences connected with that. See below. The acute risks and results of cocaine consumption are different depending on form, dose and duration of consumption. Consumption is all the more dangerous the faster the substance is taken by the body, so an immediate serious danger can arise after an intravenous injection and at smoking, particularly since at the two consumption forms the photo of the cocaine is carried out in a matter of seconds. At the same time, both consumption forms still hold endangering, especially when injecting the dissolved cocaine. Pollutions and extenders added can cause dangerous side effects, and when smoking crack, degradations of the respiratory organs, particularly the lungs, are part of the typical complications. So it comes among others to oxygen deficiency at the so-called crack lungs in the blood, or coughing up blood because of a lung hemorrhage. If the inhalation is strengthened by press, the danger of diseased air collections consists among others in the pleura room or pericardium, but also at the cold. Acutely life-threatening reactions are possible because of overdosages or incompatibilities up to the death. A low-dose cocaine can already cause a so-called cocaine shock at oversensitivity, among others by paleness, cold this one himself announces, and can lead to a heavy circulatory failure, sweat and difficulty in breathing. Overdosages, however, can cause a cocaine poisoning of informed central nervous overexcitation. It can come unrest and cerebral seizures, among others, for the increasing loss of the coordination ability to muzziness with reduced consciousnesses, and finally to the unconsciousness, and for the death by respiratory paralysis and heavy circulatory failure in the consequence. On a long-term basis, resultant damages. Regular cocaine use can lead to serious physical, emotional and social changes, and in the long run, physical consequences, counting the weakening of the physical power of resistance, a reduced capacity, strong weight loss, as well as degradations of the blood vessels in different organs like liver, heart and kidneys is one of the essential physical impairments. Primarily cold of cocaine damages and can lead to a chronic nosebleed, as well as to a reduction of the smell and sense of taste, mucous membranes of the nose and nose sinuses of the nose by smoking of crack or freebase, be particularly the respiratory organs damaged, lasting regular. It also can, however, in the long run have chronic illnesses of the respiratory organs. Pollutions of the substance can cause serious local infections by splashing cocaine. At the use of syringes used jointly, there is the danger furthermore that infectious diseases like HIV or hepatitis will transfer during the pregnancy, which among others undesirable developments of the brain and other organs have the consequence. Cocaine consumption can lead to advanced or stillbirths and to heavy maturation and disturbances of growth of the fetus. Emotional consequences. As serious emotional consequences, distinctive ill feelings, sexual malfunctions, sleeplessnesses, depressions, fears of the control loss, show themselves. Distrust, drive and concentration disturbances, reinforce sensitiveness, aggressiveness and muzziness, with regular consumers and others. It can in some cases develop a cocaine psychosis, at which the paranoid delusions, an impairment of the reality reference, as well as to visual, acoustic and haptic hallucinations can come. a parasitosis at which the consumer is convinced of it. Insects crawled under his skin is characteristic. These psychoses can get chronic. Social consequences. At a durable cocaine consumption, moreover, lasting personality changes have to be watched, like antisocial and narcissistic behavior, fear malfunctions, sensitiveness, internal unrest, strong psychomotor excitement, as well as eat and sleeplessnesses. Besides the possible criminal and also financial problems because of cocaine consumption, it is primarily the distinctive contact malfunctions appearing at a duration consumption and the tendency toward the self-isolation which can have the consequence breaking any social relationships. The question of the dependence. Both lead consumption of cocaine more episodically and more continuously to the dependence, in which the emotional aspects are in the foreground considerably. At the taking of high tins of cocaine, and particularly at smoking crack, a strong emotional dependence which primarily lets itself be seen in the distinctive tendency toward the dose increase can develop already within less weeks. When removing cocaine, it comes to withdrawal symptoms like tiredness, exhaustion, followed depressions, general feeling, lacking energy, and sexual listlessness, by a strong sleep need, the so-called crash. These symptoms can last over weeks. There is, however, still a strong desire for the substance, craving, far until after this time period, which the relapse danger correspondingly extends. Due to the acclimatization to the substance that tolerance develops at regular cocaine consumption, leads this one to higher and higher dosages, though only up to a certain maximum amount. This tolerance forms back, however, in consumption breaks again, so that after this, at first smaller lots of cocaine are needed only again. Dangerous mixtures. Every mixing consumption of different drugs holds on the one hand the risks of every single substance, on the other hand, but also the special risk of the respective substance combination. So nicotine and cocaine increase mutually in their vasoconstrictive effect and increase the danger of corresponding consequences, for example a stroke. Through this, a mixing consumption with other substances like alcohol, ecstasy, or limited saturation device can lead to a complete control loss up to the collapse. The injection mixture described as a speedball of heroin and cocaine is dangerously valid when special. The heroin addiction, additional by the possible, is also marked by strong physical dependence symptoms very fast, as opposed to pure cocaine consumption. For the moderation of anxiety disorders as unwanted effects of cocaine consumption, benzodiazepines, which also have for their part negative resultant effects and a strong dependence potential, both are often taken. 2.